This is the Criterion Creeps podcast, and tonight we're talking about Hands Over the City from 1963, directed by Francesco Rosi.
Mm-hmm.
No tagline for this film, but a synopsis, RJ.
Oh.
Prior to a city council election, the collapse of a building leaves a land developer and his political backers defending themselves against a scandal.
Against a what?
A scandal.
What kind?
Rod Steiger.
Oh.
You know about that?
No?
Okay.
Could you elaborate?
I don't know. It's a scandal. It's about corruption, RJ.
Oh, okay.
So, I don't know, RJ. Have you taken a look at the Wikipedia page for Hands Over the City?
No. Why should I?
Oh, I mean, mostly just to point out that there is not even quite. If you take out the cast section of this, there is less. There's like maybe 100 words written about this film.
That's good though, right?
Yeah, it's interesting.
You don't want spoilers, Jarrett.
Well, there's a link to the Criterion Collection essay on this film by Stuart Klawans. You're one of your favorites, I know.
Who's Stu Klaus?
Stu Klow.
Yeah, I know Stu Klaus.
Okay. Well, I'll just point out that's like, one of those things about important films being imported. Once in a while, when I'm working at the store, people ask, "Hey, so you're doing that podcast this week, huh?" And I went, "Yep. What are you watching this week?" And I go, "Hands Over the City." And they look at me blank. And I go, "It's an Italian film." And they look at me. It's from 1963. They go, "Huh." I go, "Yep."
Who asked you this?
Lots of people.
Why? Why do they know about
no
this?
one listens. No one listens to this show.
Good.
But often people go, "What are you doing on Wednesday night?" I'm like, "Well, let me tell you, I got a date. We got mandates. We got dates. I have obligations to the listeners of Creepsville.
What kind?
Obligations?
Yeah.
Podcastual. So, yeah, this movie doesn't exactly, isn't one that I would be writing to anyone to say, "You gotta check out Hands Over the City."
Are you sure?
La mano sulla cita.
You sure about that though?
I would be. Hey, remember Francesco Rosi? Remember him?
I know about Francesco.
Yeah, well, you really liked the previous film of his that we watched,
Which
Salvatore Giuliano.
Salvatore Giuliano. Yeah, he was talking about Italy and the people.
No,
Italy.
What did you have to say about Italy?
Italy. I don't think I should make those statements known publicly.
No.
I don't want to get Alex Jones here. You know what I mean?
Oh, I see. You got that defense though.
Well, this is a character for a podcast. Yeah. People know that. People are aware of that.
Remember how Salvatore Giuliano is one of Martin Scorsese's favorite films of all time?
Of course. You know what else? One of his other favorite films? We've never talked about this before. You know Gordy?
I was going to say, I'm like, are we going to be hearing about Gordy again this week?
We're going to be hearing about Gordy until you watch Gordy.
For a long time.
Until you make what's right about Gordy, we're going to be hearing about Gordy.
Okay. Well, you keep talking about Gordy over there.
I will.
And I'm going to talk about Hands Over the City. So
okay.
This is a fairly straightforward movie. This is some real direct political stuff, I think. I don't think that this movie really hides how it feels about political power.
Mm-hmm.
It literally opens up with a scene of a bunch of politicians and land developers who are all also kind of like pals and invested in one another's fortunes, be it making money and staying in power. Mm-hmm. These are guys that are finding themselves on the right side of the political spectrum, mm-hmm. with a little bit of help of the center, and they're conspiring to make Naples, the city of Naples, work for them. So instead of working with the pre-existing infrastructure and putting money into into spaces that already exist. Instead, we're going to buy up land over here, and then when the opportunity comes through machinations of the state, this being kind of municipal powers, we're going to make sure that money gets allocated, and our case is pushed and moved toward, let's get those projects built on the new land.
Sure.
Yeah, so that's kind of like how this opens up, with a bunch of scheming dudes saying politics, and then we get this sequence of people kind of living in, I don't know, like an urban center amongst these like kind of like old buildings where like residences, and people are doing some renovations. People are just going about their day-to-day lives. They're like the street markets, traversing back and forth. And suddenly, like a giant piece of like siding off of one of these buildings just falls to the ground, almost hits a guy in the head, and it's like, almost. Hey, that's a close call. But then suddenly, half of this building falls down, as does like the other half of the entire building just comes crashing down, crushes two people right off the hop, and then one child is grievously injured. In fact, the real reveal comes, loses the use of their legs. In fact, loses their legs and now has prosthetics. But seems to be pretty happy about it. Pretty happy-go-lucky kid. Good spirit. Spunk. Lots of spunk.
Okay. That's one way to describe it.
That's one way to put it. So anyway, this becomes suspect. And this kind of leads, the left party. I can't remember the name of the guy. I think it's DeVita is the leader of the left-wing party. It's played by a guy named Carlo Fimarello. And he's the one spearheading like an investigation, because he's like, this is bullshit. We all know what's going on. And, I mean, we should be a lot more concerned about this than we are. But this power structure is flawed. It's crap. These two-thirds collaborate, and they shut out any real change. And of course, they do it all by the book, and they check mark everything to make sure that it's all nice and legal. But in principle, this is very wrong, because they are not acting in the best interest of the people whose taxes they use to basically make themselves rich. And over the course of 90 minutes, we kind of see this play out. We see the backstage scheming of the mayor and the leaders of the right and the center and the members of this kind of bullshit committee that gets struck to do the investigation. But it's already like determined at the beginning, we're not going very far with this. We don't want to know, because we already know what the score is, because we're probably complicit in this, and we don't want anything to change, because why would we? The film is very critical of the systems that are in place here. The one thing that I was noticing when I was reading about who hates this film, and I think it's, in some cases it works, but I don't think one needs to know a lot about Italian politics to be able to follow along with this film, because I think that these observations about power and systems are pretty across the board and noteworthy. Like, this feels like an episode of The Wire in a lot of ways, but it's like an entire season's worth of a storyline, and it's one plot line of The Wire, and it just follows that storyline. For whether or not it's a great depiction of it cinematically, or if it's a great piece of film, that's up for debate. But I think like what's going on is pretty laid out. There's not a lot of ambiguity there. It's kind of like, yeah, these guys are scum and they shouldn't be in power, but they are. They get elected because they're liked, and because people vote often not on what they actually think about something, about like the morality of something, but it's about on party lines and about staying in power, which I think are very relevant things. And across like all countries and regions and places, municipal, provincial, state, federal, national, like these are all like things that frustrate, I think, everybody. So I think for anyone that follows politics or has an investment in politics, should be able to like follow along and get something out of this. But that being said, if a person really doesn't think about these things a great deal in their day-to-day life, and they happen to find themselves watching Hands Over the City, and they don't do a podcast where you're obligated to watch movies in spine order, which is completely arbitrary and random. Maybe you're not going to have a great time. But I find it fascinating that in the people who hate this movie, they're like, I don't even know what would have brought them to watching this. Like, are they big Rod Steiger fans? They're like, yeah, I really want to see Rod Steiger's performance as Eduardo Notola. And they're like, but I want to see him dubbed because that's how Italians made it. And I will say, like, RJ, were you aware that Rod Steiger was dubbed in this film?
Yeah, it was the first thing that came to my attention. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty on track with dubs, subs, and tubs. Yep. So yeah, it was one of the first things I noticed, like immediately.
Right. So immediately.
Immediately, I knew all about it.
Yeah,
I knew all about it, but that's fine. It's fine.
No.
Yeah. So tell me more about how much you like Hands Over the City.
Do I like this movie?
I
don't know. So I don't mind this movie. I think it's subject matter that I find interesting. I do like these sort of political dramas as they creep up. This one's shot like very stripped down. I mean, Rod Steiger's the only real star in the film, so there's no distracting, TV actors or Michael Fassbender's not going to show up playing an Italian leftist councilman, distracting the whole thing. You're like, why is he in this movie? There's nothing quite like that. This is just like stripped down. One of the criticisms I've seen about the movie is like they can't tell any of these people apart, and it's just like, yeah, it's a lot of dudes that you don't know. They're very anonymous looking, and they all wear suits, a lot of dark hair, a lot of overweight like Italian men talking about spaghetti.
Talking about what?
Talking about spaghetti. Which I don't know if you noticed that they put that sauce down first and then the spaghetti on top.
I noticed that. That's an interesting style. Is that Italian style?
That might be Italian. Maybe it's Neapolitan style.
Oh, like the ice cream?
Like the ice cream.
Okay.
Strawberry vanilla chocolate, baby.
Well, yeah, that's what it's all about.
It's all about.
Yeah.
How about Neapolitan squares?
No.
No.
They're fine, but they're hard to eat. Like, you take a bite of it and all that shit, the Cool Whip or the whipped cream just flies out of it. It's like, you know.
So one of the things, and this is like even in the little write up on here, they DeVita is described as a communist, and it's interesting because I mean, I was reminded of Ralph Nader in terms of. Essentially, Ralph Nader served as a consumer advocate, as in his role as a lawyer, taking companies to task for seatbelt laws and how the auto industry is just corrupt and working with government and coordinating well, this isn't good for the economy. We have to spend this kind of money. We should turn against this. Why would you even need safety? I don't even understand. And the entire scam of what these politicians are doing, creating these laws, the way it works with the bureaucrats, nobody can take responsibility, and they talk about well, you have to follow these codes, otherwise if anything happens, you're liable and you go to jail. It's well, does anyone check if they do that? Well, no, of course not, because if anything goes wrong, they'll go to jail. That's the only assurance that you get. But very clearly, as this film demonstrates, no one goes to jail. And you can just get away with using substandard materials, products, and just lead people to die. And you'd be well, nothing's going to happen to you. Not really, except for the people who get killed by your bad product or your bad housing that you're offering, your hovels, and then you're letting it. Also, you're encouraged to let these places go to waste so that you can start building the next piece of shit scam thing and force them to move in over there by order of the law, and they're forced to be consumers and buy into your next scam. And then you get to keep your property, even though it's destitute. and like left to shambles, and it's just like, oh, this just keeps happening. And it's like, how, I don't know how anyone can think that is like unrelatable or something like that, because it's happening in Italy. It's like, well, this shit happens everywhere. Like this is one of the shittiest ways that people make money, is, you know, through property scams. And you know, when it comes to like, oh, we're gonna get these grants and all this money, we're gonna work hand in hand, and we're gonna skim off the top, but like but fairly and legally, because you know, as our Davida, our hero, constantly talks about, it's like, there's no issue of morality to this. Should people be doing this? Yes, you create the laws that say you can do this, ergo it's not against the law. But it's like, well, it's bullshit. It's because you're creating the law. You just don't criminalize the part that you should be criminalizing intentionally. And I mean, the movie just kind of ends even with like a nice little shot to the Catholic Church as the eminencies there for the new land breaking, for the new development that these guys have been scamming the whole time for. And the movie kind of just ends on this note of like, yeah, if you want to change anything in your society, you gotta vote differently, my dudes. Because these right-wing guys, they're just calling you a communist. Say, those are some crazy ideas you have over there. And the center guys will kind of play... they're ultimately going to be leaning to the right, because it is about holding on to power. And sometimes you can wind up being the peacemaker, in quotes, in the middle. But at the end of the day, it's like, who's paying my bills?
Who is paying your bills?
And it's about keeping, you know, the system trucking along. You don't want to rock the boat too much. That's dangerous. Nobody wants that.
Well, it's Abrams-esque.
Abrams-esque.
Some would say.
Lens flares. Not a one. Not a one.
Potentially.
So anyway, from like a subject matter standpoint and like kind of the context of like Rosi making the movie, I'm glad this movie exists. There's a couple of questionable filmmaking things going on in this movie. Right at like the top of the hour of this movie, we have this scene. I think it's Rod Steiger. He's just like walking around his office, and there's this music playing over it for like 2 minutes, and it doesn't like go anywhere. It's just like a scene, and you're like, is he supposed to be contemplating? Am I supposed to be like into his contemplation? And then like it's just like, huh, that feels like filler.
Where did you go with it?
I didn't go
anywhere. Did you become part of his contemplation?
I didn't. I was just like, this seems to be going on. And there's like another scene too where some questionable film craft, but I can't remember what it was. But there's some really great stuff in this. Like there's like the one shot of like kind of like a protest going on, because obviously the people who live in their hovels that are collapsing, they're still their home and they need somewhere to stay. And there's like the shot of like a protest and all these banners kind of draped down and the camera's just moving down, and there's like this mass of people underneath. Really cool looking. Yeah, there's some. It's all obviously shot, you know, on location using real places. You know, there's like, you know, little kids in the middle of these shots just looking at the camera, even they've been told not to. But you're like, we missed it. We missed it in the dailies. That little fucking brat just looking right at the camera. But but it reminds the audience that this is like real. And of course, it ends with this thing at the end saying the characters depicting this are all fictional, but the context and reality of it is real.
Isn't that? Did you find that a little Twilight Zone-y? Like potentially a little bit.
I think that makes sense though.
Yeah.
That because that's what that's the intention of this film. It is like, yeah, its sympathies are definitely obvious, I think, in terms of like being this like a call to action of being like, hey, this is the way things are. It's the 1960s, baby. 4 years from the student riots and stuff like that. And like, and there's like, there's real attempt by, you know, the left in the West to like change things, and then it got beat the shit out of by right-wing power forces, and we've never really bounced back from that. So yeah, this is like kind of like a precursor to that. But and like, look, life is still in the toilet, and people are still thinking, being sympathetic to billionaires' houses being raided. They're poor guy. He's being picked on.
Well, when was the last time you had your house raided, Jarrett?
Not enough, apparently.
Can I get that address real quick?
I'm good. No,
Okay.
I do believe swatting is a crime now. The
Yeah.
powers that be finally decided, hey, you can't call cops on people and have them killed. Only we can.
Hey, I never said I was going to call the cops on you. I wanted your address for personal reasons.
I see.
You know what I mean?
I got you. I'm hearing what you're saying.
You ever heard of Rob Eagle?
Oh fuck no.
Yeah.
The leather daddy.
The leather daddy himself.
With the box. He's got a box.
What's in the box, Jarrett?
Leather.
What's in the box, Jarrett?
What's inside the box?
So, anyways,
so I appreciate this film, but I'm also sympathetic to the position of the film. It was pretty much what I expected, but it doesn't have that like magic oomph of like really capturing you and like sucking you in and making you like mad, which I think is sort of important when you're trying to make like a agitprop sort of
a what?
cinema agitprop. Like it's like
okay.
so to get people get them fired up. You want to like get them pissed and like walking out of the movie saying, "Oh man, I'm Jokerfied now."
They Jokerfied it?
They didn't. They failed to Jokerfy it.
You just wanted them to.
Yeah.
You personally, Jarrett Duncan, wanted them to Jokerfy this. So can you tell me, how would you Jokerfy Hands in the City? Because there's not a lot of comments about society in this, or is there?
I beg your pardon?
How many comments of society is there in this film?
I don't know if it's about society. It's definitely about political systems.
But like the Jokerfied version would be about the society of the
it's about society.
of the politics.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
About how we live in it.
Well, which society do you live in? Choose your own narrative, Jarrett.
Choose your own narrative. Yeah. Well, that's the problem. That's basically our guys, our bad guys in this. If you want to call them that, they choose their own narrative.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be bad.
They're the baddies. So, anyways, yeah, I'm fine with this movie. Glad to have watched it. I mean, I think there's probably better films of this type that you could watch about landlords and them being scummy, and just like the fact that the politicians, they're leaving you and me behind, pal.
I heard. Yeah. I've seen it.
You and me, Mac.
I've seen it.
So, RJ, what did you think of Hands Over the City?
Hands, like pants.
On the hands on the city, hands over the city. I mean, it even has this like image of just this hand over top of the city top. You know, is it an invisible hand?
Like laissez-faire?
A man hand.
You know about laissez-faire, Jarrett?
Yeah, I know. Do you know about The Man?
I know about the movie The Man. Doesn't that star Eugene Levy?
You know about The Invisible Man? Remember that movie? Remember that?
Which one?
The recent one that everyone loved.
Oh yeah, I watched that. That was a good show.
Yeah.
I know about the Invisible Man. What was the Kevin Bacon one? Just Invisible?
Hollow Man?
Hollow Man. I know about Hollow Man. Do you know about Hollow Man?
Yeah, that movie's terrific.
Sure. Jarrett Duncan. Proved. Yeah. What were you asking in this movie? Oh yeah. So Hands Over the City. You know how I feel about Italians.
Mm-hmm. Have a drink.
Their insatiability is not just sexual. It's property driven as well.
Material.
It's material driven, Jared. No, so I threw this on, and yeah, I did like Salvatore Giuliano, which was a movie we watched once.
Giuliano.
Giuliano. This is Giuliano. There are a lot of hand talking in this film. So I threw this on.
There's a scene. I think I took a screenshot of it, and there's the hands making the money signs.
The tax.
Yes.
The taxes. I see the taxes.
Quality stuff.
Yeah. I got quite a bit of screenshots in this.
Yeah.
I think the way I take screenshots now, which Jarrett knows about, but I don't want to out myself to the social media.
You get real excited when there's like talk about toilets.
Wow.
And then cuckolds.
Was there a cuck in this one?
Not in this one. I take screenshots like this one.
Let's see here. Oh yeah, Jarrett just likes large men.
What was he reading?
Asian brides. High in scene joke. You know what I mean, Jarrett?
From the hit smash film. It's both Kingpin.
Yes, the hit smash. What was I gonna say? Asian brides. I don't know. What was I talking about?
You're checking out this movie. You're checking out this movie, taking screenshots.
I took a lot of screenshots. This movie had a weird play for me where it was I was equally parts interested watching, like and then equally parts kind of like what, just kind of like drifting away for a second, not for long, not for like 10 minutes or anything like that, but there would be parts where I kind of just like drift away for a second and be like just staring at the ceiling, and then I was like, oh yeah, a movie, and then I come back and I'd be like, oh yeah, this is a good movie, and then I like I just drifted away again. Do you know what I mean? Like,
sure.
Yeah, so I think this movie is okay. In the sense, kind of like what you said, it goes by pretty smoothly. There's parts of it when I was watching where it was like when they're actually just like gabbing each other, they're really like going after each other. I was just like, man, I was like, this dialogue is juicy. I was like, this is actually pretty good stuff.
Yeah, it feels like they're I don't know. I would compare it to like kind of your contemporary television shows, I guess, in terms of like characters.
Like Gilmore Girls?
Like Gilmore Girls, not unlike.
Okay.
But like it has that political intrigue of an HBO prestige series.
Yes, it does. It does.
Or whatever. But, you know, these characters like don't like each other. They're politicians at the same time. They're scoring points off of one another. And there's some good back and forth. There's good speechifying, good I don't know, at the pulpit and pontifying, getting their point across, scoring those cheap shots.
Yeah. There's a little bit of that.
A touch.
Yeah. So I find this movie has a weird blend of being like genuinely interesting to very boring at times, where you're just like, whoa. So it's got kind of a weird mix. But I do think, when this movie runs hot, it runs hot, if that makes sense. When these guys actually when the scenes start to dig into stuff, and you're just like, oh yeah, you're like, I see what they're doing here. It gets after it pretty good, which I like. Scenes of note, my favorite scene in the movie, Fat Man at the side of his pool with his rowing machine.
That literally sounds like half of the movie.
Fat Man. With a rowing machine.
Yeah, that was, I do recall that. Now that you mention it, it's like, oh yes.
I liked it. I liked seeing this big dude in his like velvet tracksuit, like just hitting his row machine, and you're like, yeah, that's nice. And then his butler gets him or whatever, and they put him in like a bathrobe or like a robe and a towel, and I was like, man, this dude's got to be roasting. Italy can't be that cold. But I liked that. I really liked the intro when it was like the press or like the drill or whatever, when they pull it up and it just like slams down into the ground and they're throwing like mud on it to like lubricate it. I was just like, I don't know why. I was like, when that started, I was like, I hope this movie is about infrastructure. But I wanted to see more of the actual, like, you know, building of those things, I guess. So I like that. I do actually like what this movie is, like what it's going for. Like, I think it's a good idea. I think politics is, you know, crazy, man. I don't know. I'm not gonna get into politics, but when you see this, and it's like you said, the line where it's just like politics, and they're like, we make the laws, so it's like it's whatever we say it is. Yeah. And you're like, yeah, things aren't that much different. Like, however many like kilometers away and however many years away, it's like things are pretty much still the same. Yep. Is how I found it. But yeah, when they actually start digging into it and they're like getting after each other in the scenes, I was really interested in it. And then every once in a while there's a scene where I was kind of like,
Yeah.
And it kind of lost me. So I think this movie, it's not bad. It's not bad. It actually, it's not Salvatore Giuliano, but it is.
My favorite.
I know that's one of your faves. It's a good slice of Italy, and there isn't too many men lusting over stuff.
Spicy
you know what
meatballs.
I mean? Spicy meatballs, other than power and greed. So
yeah, these ones are being too distracted by the power and the greed, because that's how you get the women.
That's how you get the win. First come into power, then come into money, and then I come into win. And Scarface,
ravioli,
beefsteak.
What insights? What insights
Yeah.
we got for people here?
Beefsteak. No, I like the infrastructure stuff. I like the comments on politics. I really like the map of the city behind the guy. That was neat.
That was very cool.
I do actually. I like that scene.
It reminded me a little bit of High and Low.
Yep, it does. I like the scene after he gets kind of confronted in his office, and he's just kind of like walking around his office for like 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's the scene that I was like, the music's playing out of like, it's just there. You're like,
he's just there.
Like, this is going on.
I actually kind of liked it. He's like shuffles around here, and he sits there for a minute, and then he shuffles around there, and he sits there for a minute, and I was like,
that was jazz music though, RJ.
I know it was, and I was there for it. So I did like that.
RJ's a jazz man now, apparently.
I am a jazz man. I like that. I did actually really like the council meeting at the end, where it's just it's like Wall Street style, like people just yelling at each other with their hands, pepperoni, and you're like, man, these guys are these guys are going after it.
And I quote, pepperoni,
pepperoni. So I like that.
rigatoni.
So this movie's got some cool stuff in it, but it does. There are a couple dips where you're just like, oh, I don't know how to make that better, because it's not that long. It's only an hour and 40. It's not like it's too long or anything. It's just some of the content is a little dry.
Mm.
So that's my take on this bad boy.
No, so that it's a little undercooked.
Pepperoni.
Mm-hmm.
You know about pepperoni?
I'm aware of its works.
You've heard of pepperoni?
No.
Cool.
Yeah,
cool.
Not too bad. Yeah, let's hear from people who hates hands over the city.
Sure.
We got Soup Lover 12.
Soup Lover 12. Cool.
Yeah, Soup Lover. 1 star. The only way I can describe it was an Italian Parks and Rec, but corrupt and not funny, and you can't tell any of the characters apart.
The only way I could describe it is like Dragon Ball Z, but no aliens, no fighting, and no like energy beams. It's not like Parks and Rec at all.
Well, I mean, it's about politics, and maybe this is that person's frame of reference. Municipal
Barely.
Politics.
This person's favorite films are Ella Enchanted and The Ship Sails On and It's a Wonderful Life. Half-star films include Boss Baby and Red Notice.
That's wild.
The new film, Red Notice.
Red Notice, and it's going to get a sequel for being so good.
It's going to have a whole expanded universe, I'm sure.
Everybody loves The Rock.
I'm sure.
Especially himself.
Mm-hmm.
Lauer 31.
I see him.
Laurel, maybe?
Laurel with the 3, yeah.
Like
maybe.
Some lead speak here. Half cyborg. 2 stars. This film gave me a headache, but it sure was authentic. No one can go more than 30 seconds without yelling at someone.
Okay, favorite films include The Old Guard, which looks like Charlize Theron, Trust from 2018, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, and Dirty Dancing.
Oh.
But what I'm interested in is they have 1 half-star review, and it's for a film called They Call Me Jeeg.
Huh.
A superhero like no other. After accidentally coming into contact with radioactive waste, small-time crook Enzo Siccotti gains superpowers. A misanthropic, introverted brute, he uses his new powers for personal gain until he meets Alicia, a mentally challenged girl who believes Enzo's the hero from her favorite Japanese anime series, Steel Jeeg.
Damn.
Do you know about They Call Me Jeeg, Jarrett?
I'm not aware of this film at all.
Do you know about mentally challenged girls who like Japanese anime series?
I'm okay on that.
Okay.
I'm okay.
Okay. Well, this person gave it a half a star.
Damn.
Yeah.
Cold.
That's the way it is.
That's cold. Let's see here. I got another one from Pirate Neckbeard.
Okay.
2.5 stars. This movie, I'm sure, was an inspiration Costa Gavras, and it is a solid bureaucratic drama that, be said, I did find it a little confusing and tiresome, probably due to the fact that I don't really know how Italian's political system works. I also think Ron Steiger was underutilized on the sheer fact that you do miss a lot of his performance when he is dubbed. This movie is quite bleak, and I'm sure it exists I'm glad it exists, which it held my interest throughout.
What?
Yeah, that wasn't me. That's the paragraph.
Well, they like Stalker and Spirit of the Beehive and Woman in the Dunes and Thing. They're from Vancouver, allegedly.
Damn.
And they do not like Argento films.
Okay.
And they... Well, I mean, I'm seeing it. They also don't like Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know about Arnold?
I know about him.
He knows about Arnold. I don't know. They got ratings. There's nothing interesting. They got a bio about their ratings, and it's like, yeah, we know how star systems work. You know? You know? You know. He don't know. He don't know.
I'm just skimming the 5-star reviews. At the bottom of 5 stars, we got Stir. With that end quote of the film, the characters and events shown are imaginary. The social and environmental context is real. Details how privatization breaks down society until it literally crumbles to pieces. Specifically resonant as it features government officials using their insider knowledge to invest in taking cash outside of their job. Not unlike what Nancy Pelosi and others are doing in the U.S. Francesco Rosi kind of predicts the rise of neoliberalism, though I'm not too versed in its history, and rightfully calls out so-called centrists for always being in bed with right-wing fascists. What a fucking picture. There's some big words there.
Their bio says, for me, the action is in the juice.
Ooh.
Favorite films are Abraham Lincoln, Bend of the River, Kanathal Metal, and We Own the Night with Mark Wahlberg.
Damn.
Here's where it gets interesting, Jarrett. Half a star to the film from 2019, Cuck. Now, I'm not sure what that means.
We talked about Cuck way back
Yeah,
when.
no, I know, but they half starred it, so...
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if that movie's going to be very good.
Well... Or is that Cuck talk? You know what I mean?
Well,
careful.
One of the more popular reviews for this film that nobody really watches is from Edez. 5 stars. Between Salvatore Giuliano and this, I can safely say Francesco Rosi is one of my favorite filmmakers.
I'm trying to find popular reviews. Edez. Oh, there they are.
Yeah.
Edez. What's this person? Raging Bull, Network, Citizen Kane, Playtime.
There you go.
Half-star films include Harold and Kumar, Escape from Guantanamo Bay.
It's funnier when you read it out loud.
It is.
And you go, that movie exists.
You know what? In 6 years of doing this podcast, I don't think we have ever once talked about Harold and Kumar.
Well, we'll have to continue that streak.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel
Garfield
like you've mentioned Harold and Kumar before, but
I mean, I've seen those movies.
No.
I've seen those movies.
Sulu?
Sulu's in there. And then Didn't Kumar become like a White House like guy? Like wasn't he like some kind of international diplomat or something?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure. Like
That's-
Cal Penn, I'm pretty sure he became like he was part of the Obama administration or something.
Damn. Hot damn.
Former Associate Director, White House Office of Public Liaison.
Okay.
So there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
So there's some people and their thoughts. Like this. Like this is our platform for our thoughts.
Sure.
RJ, any final thoughts on hands over the city?
It's hands,
Hands.
pants. You know what I mean?
Big old hands.
Hands is more like pants
No.
or something. I don't
Hands the size of hams.
know. Ooh. I like that.
Not too bad, not too bad. Cool. Yeah, if you're into those politics and you like those in movies, you like some tautness. It's not taught.
Mhm.
It's not taught. It's not suspenseful.
It's not taught?
It's pretty straightforward. You already kind of I think everyone knows in their heart how this story is going to end, so
Oh, okay.
there you go. So
It's not.
after the break, we marvel at the length in which this might be one of our shortest episodes in forever. Thank you,
No.
Patreon.
It's still an hour.
Still.
Yeah.
But who are the real monsters?
The French?
They don't have pasta, do they?
I don't think so.
No, they don't have any.
Not yet.
No, they're goofy.
Oh. What else are they?